I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City Clerk, can we have the roll call?
Mayor Matsumoto Wright.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Here.
Councilmember McCardle.
Here.
Councilmember Murray.
Present.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Councilmember Sonmore.
Here.
Councilmember Woodard.
Here.
Thank you. So next will be public comment. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
We do. We have William Page. And you'll have 5 minutes to speak. Yep.
All right. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. As you know, this is Hispanic Heritage Month, and it started last month on the 15th, and it will end on the 15th of this month, October, which, by the way, is my birthday. Just saying, so in case if anybody's wondering. And as you remember, the DEIC, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Commission, participated last month with the City Council, you folks, in presenting the proclamation with the presence, with the assistance of Alvaro Gillian, one of our former members. However, I'd like to take this a further step, this whole proclamation. And there are 6 identified storefront businesses in Mountlake Terrace that are Hispanic owned. Mazatlan restaurant, that's the restaurants, Mazatlan, Azteca, Las Espuelas, La Tapia, and Alberto Jr. Mexican food restaurants, as well as La Placida, Oxaquena grocery store. I have the proclamations printed out, and Stephen gave me some folders to put them in. But what I'd like to do, what I'm looking for is, volunteers from you all to reach out and match up with the commissioners. And what I would like to do is something that I don't think has been done before in the city with proclamations with groups. And that is to go to these businesses, to their business owners, matched up with the DEIC as well as the council, and present these proclamations to them at their businesses, and let them know that we care about them. This proclamation isn't just a statement, it is a happening. It's a reason why we did this, because they're important. The proclamation said a whole lot of things about what they do for the city. And I think that the opportunity, for us as a group, the DEIC, to get out there with the council, working hand in hand, will give us an opportunity to do that. So what I'm asking for, again, is to get members of the council to match up with, DEIC commissioners. And, we've got to the 15th, but we'd like us to match up and get out there and give these proclamations to the business owners. I know Steve is going to talk more about it, during new business. And then you can get with me or get with him if you're interested in participating. And I'll get the commissioners, to match up with you, and we'll have some fun. We'll go out there, and I think it's going to be a worthwhile event. I really do. I think that when we went around and told them that we was doing a proclamation, and we did offer them to come for it, but it was prime time, dinner time, so none of them could come. But I think that this would be a nice surprise from them, from the city. I really do. And I think it's probably long overdue. So if I know you can't ask me any questions or anything like that, but if you want to, you can. And thank you in advance for your participation. All right? That's it. Thank you.
Happy birthday in advance.
Excuse me?
Sorry, I'm out of order, so I'll tell you later.
I won't tell.
Don't.
Oh.
Do we have any others?
We don't have anyone else signed up in person, but if there's anyone in the online audience who would like to make a general comment or speak about something not on the agenda, please use your hand raise tool. Going once, going twice. That's the end of general comments.
All right, thank you very much.
Public.
So next on our agenda is the council consent calendar. Councilmember McCardle?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the consent calendar, items A and B.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next is the council liaison reports, and I'm just going to start. I'll start with Councilmember Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, so on September 23rd, I had the pleasure of going to opening night for the art show, and I will leave that most of that to Councilmember Ryan, but thank you to everyone involved in that effort. It was an incredible opportunity to be able to go and not only see all of the work which I had done in previous years as a resident. I had been to the art show, but I'd never gotten a chance to go to the kickoff event that all the artists attend, and it was really neat to meet some of them and hear them talk about their work. And it was a lovely evening, and really appreciate all of the time and energy that goes into putting that on. And it was really nice to be back after a couple years of break. On the 25th, so 2 days later, I volunteered at the art show, which was a great opportunity to chat with folks there and just connect with residents, which again is really nice after not being able to do that for quite some time. The week of the 19th through the 25th, I talked about this a little bit previously, was the week without driving. So had an opportunity, I made it through an entire week without driving, which was not an easy thing to do. I think, I am somebody who has a lot on my schedule, and I have 2 young kids, and we are very much reliant on our vehicle to get to and from the places that we need to go. But through a combination of walking and public transportation, and rides from some very kind folks, we were able to get to go where we needed to go. And it was really a good opportunity for me so it's put on again by a disability rights organization here in Washington to help us better understand folks who do not drive and the barriers that they face to just participation in day-to-day life. And so lots of takeaways there, but I think some big ones that come to mind when I think about the work that we do, is, really the biggest one, as I was driving out to my kids' one of my kids' soccer games out in Lake Stevens here this last weekend. Now that we are driving again, I was reflecting on how grateful I was that they did not have a game in Lake Stevens the week that we were not driving. Both of their games had been here in Mountlake Terrace. And it made me think about how often folks who are on limited incomes, end up moving further from major transit hubs and areas and the services that they then have to try to access, without necessarily access to public transportation. And so was grateful for the public transportation we have. I think some of the things that came to mind for me is as we move towards light rail and some of our changes, our stops are changing here. I think one of the things Sound Transit said they were going to come back and talk to us about at some point was what those service changes look like, as we are no longer having to bus folks from community transit downtown, how we are helping to connect folks to light rail and around our community, because that was definitely much more challenging to do during that time period. And then I would just, I guess for residents, I would encourage folks, I think each of us play an important role in helping folks get around our community. And I think when we think about how we're maintaining, our sidewalks, how we are putting our trash cans, which I know we've had lots of good conversations about, but remember, they go on the curbside in the street, not on the sidewalk. Those are all really key, easy things that all of us can do to help make sure that folks can get around our community safely. So that was a really good, I think a good experience, and would love to chat with folks more about that if you're interested. Let's see, the 29th, I had my monthly meeting with Chris Collier from the Affordable Housing Alliance, and then that night went to the Snohomish County Cities meeting, which was lovely, and lots of other folks were there as well, so I'm sure they'd be happy to talk about it, but we got some good updates from AWC, and that completes my report. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Woodard?
Thank you, Mayor. On Wednesday, the 21st, I had the opportunity to attend the Linwood Chamber of Commerce meeting. They had a luncheon. I bring that up because we currently don't have one ourselves. We've been hearing about it may be a reality for us, but our Mountlake Terrace businesses do attend that session, so I've been able to attend that, and it's been a wonderful experience getting to know them from that angle. They had a speaker that was talking about leadership, so that was also unexpected but welcomed blessing. On Friday, I too was in this very room, which is hard to believe it was in this room with all the people that were in here. And I was thinking to myself, both at the time and even now, as I say it to the universe, I don't know if I ever want that many people in here to see us, because it probably means we've done something that they're really upset about. As much as I'd love to say it, they're going to come for the happiness. We've had a lot of happiness, and it looks, not much different than this room. That said, thank you to this room. I believe the Ivy League has been meeting, even though I have been neglectful to attend. So thank you for having some Ivy League folks here in the room. I also, on the 25th, had the opportunity to volunteer. Councilmember Murray was very kind and didn't point out, we volunteered during the Hawks game, folks. That's the love we have for the arts of Terrace. It was actually really just wonderful. A lot of the volunteers were actually the artists themselves, so we had some one-on-one times with them. My favorite answer was, I was talking with one of the artists, and I apologize, I don't remember his name offhand, but I asked him, how long did it take you to take this photo? It was a still shot of wildlife, and he says, well, it depends on the answer, or something like that, but he was like, one answer is 60 years. Which was just a reflection of how much their art it really is, that it's a lifelong exposure in many cases. But it was just a wonderful conversation, and coming from a dad who's a photographer, I really respected that answer. That, yeah, it looked like it took 20 minutes, but it really took a lifetime to get that photo. And I think it actually did get an award to that point. On the 29th, I had the opportunity to represent Mountlake Terrace at the Evergreen Treatment Center's Gala. They're actually out of Seattle. They do a lot of work with folks in treatment, and unfortunately at the crossroads of treatment and homelessness. Officially recognized while we were there, which is why I bring it into this space, which is just to say, I know we're looking to do some work here in Snohomish County. A lot of good work is happening. We'll hear some of that later today. But it was just wonderful to be able to spend just a couple of hours down there learning more about what's happening there, and just kind of keeping an eye on what that can mean for us, speaking of transit and population growth and light rail and all that mixed in there. I too attended Snohomish County and City dinner on the 29th. And then on the 30th, the next morning, I had the honor of emceeing VOA Western Washington's Hope is Brewing event. And so if you were able to attend that or catch the video, I thank you for that. And then just today, I was able to make Congressman Rick Larson's first town hall in over 2 years. So he was in Everett today, and it would seem neglectful if I didn't go, and it was right down the street from me. A lot of great questions were asked by the public, and it was just a good experience to hear what's on people's minds. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Ryan?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Well, let's see here. On the 23rd of September, we had our arts reception for the art award ceremonies for those people that got awards for the art show and those that entered the art show. The art show started Saturday, the 24th, and ended October 1st. I'd like to thank the commissioners that worked on the art show and the staff members that showed up and helped out by lifting things and moving them around, and all the volunteers that worked the art show, because it was the same, basically the same hours as the library, so they had to be there from essentially 10 in the morning till 4 at night. some did 2-hour shifts, some did 3-hour shifts. And I know that I heard a couple council members were there, including Steve Woodard and Aaron was there, so thank you very much. And then there's other council members that came and viewed. And then, of course, the council members showed up for the artist reception. And our mayor led that. Thank you very much, Mayor. I'd like to say more, but I'll keep it short. Then, 29th, we had our, we did our Snohomish County Cities and Towns networking in Everett, where we talked with the Association of Washington Cities on the latest happenings in the state of Washington. How's that? I think that's it. And then, then I had to tear down the art show on the 2nd and 3rd. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sonmore?
Thank you. So going on with the art show, I had the pleasure of attending Friday night where I brought my mother, who had a piece in the art show, so she was thrilled about that. And she actually got a chair to sit down in, so I was very appreciative about that. And so we'll have to ask the art show which area holds more. But I was able to peek in from the side here, and so that was lovely. And everybody was thrilled with all the awards that were given, and we just thought this year was just wonderful. And I was wondering if you were talking about the herons earlier, the herons with the baby. I would love to have gotten a shot, and it would have probably taken me 60 years to get a shot just like that one. But some of them were just absolutely incredible. And so thank you to all the artists and everybody who helped put it on. The Art Commission is wonderful. So I did go visit them on Saturday and Sunday of last week, and did thank them for all their hard work. So, and to Rick, thank you very much. And most of all, your son Connor, who it was fantastic hosting, and Nayland Sue, who also hosted as well. And then moving along on September 27th, Councilman McCardle and I had our city manager meeting. And then I wanted to pass along, a longtime resident had passed away. She was just 3 weeks shy of her 90th birthday. And her and her husband, Mr. and Mrs. Rice, had volunteered quite a lot in the 70s and 80s, so much so that I got a visit with Don Sarcletti, our former Parks and Director. He was at the Celebration of Life, and he was telling all the stories about how they used to volunteer, and they'd sit up in the clubhouse and the baseball field, and how he had all these different fundraisers for baseball and softball. But it was nice to see Don, and condolences to the Rice family. And Paul Rice was a firefighter within Mountlake Terrace here, and that was his mother that passed away. And last, I have a left one meeting next week with Councilman Ryan, and that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Councilmember Ricardo?
Thank you, Mayor. On Tuesday, the 27th, I had my monthly meeting with the interim city manager and just got caught up with all the updates on the city. On the 29th, I was unable to attend the Snohomish County Cities and Towns due to a work conflict. And this week's kind of a slow start, but next week is when all my committee meetings start, so I'll be very busy in the weeks to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Wall?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the 22nd, I had the Puget Sound Regional Council Executive Board meeting. We discussed the regional legislative agenda, which includes transportation, housing, and climate. We also discussed the Regional Transportation Plan Work Program. And then we also had a presentation on the Puget Sound data trends, which was very interesting, particularly how the region is recovering, or in some cases not, or slowly recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. And then we were looking at the housing trends, and we are continuing to grow despite the pandemic, growing a lot, as we all know in this region. We are still 10,000 housing units short of where we need to be today to meet demand, which explains a lot about the prices, housing prices, and why we're continuing to face affordable housing crises, and why we all need to do our part in each of our cities and throughout the region in helping to address that challenge by adding more housing units as best we can. And then we also talked about the Puget Sound Regional Council Transportation Improvement Program and the money, and there are, as we were talking about earlier today with the mayor and myself meeting with the interim city manager, there are funds available federal funds available through the Puget Sound Regional Council, both through countywide competition and regional competitions that we can be looking at and need to be applying for to help us address our things like Main Street. So another opportunity for us to help bring some dollars back home and address the needs that we have here. On the 23rd, also attended the art show reception and awards. What a fantastic event. It was certainly appreciate all the work that our commission and Councilmember Ryan and family and all of our artists put into making that all possible and come together. What a great event it was. And what a talented community we live in. I mean, if you didn't get a chance to go and view the art this last year, be sure to do so next year. I mean, it's just amazing whether it's the paintings or the pictures, photos, to the small. It was fantastic, and I just highly encourage folks to take advantage of this region's premier events. I mean, we do such a great job here in Mountlake Terrace with our art show, and certainly want to encourage others to take advantage of the incredible job that we put on. So great job, thank you. And then also on the 29th, had the Snohomish County City's dinner and AWC on tap. We talked about the HEART, which is the county-wide regional housing strategy and the housing plan that we're working on to help us address particularly the low-income housing needs that we face in this region, and AWC's legislative briefing, and looking into this next session with some of the legislative topics that we're going to be addressing there. So, and then as I mentioned earlier this evening, had our meeting with the interim city manager. I think that concludes my report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All right, excuse me. So for my report, on September 22nd, I attended the Board of Health Executive Committee meeting. And on the 23rd, I also attended the Mountlake Terrace Arts of the Terrace show with the reception over in the library and the awards over here in our chambers. And everyone's been bragging about that show, so it really was a good show. And lot of work. So I every time we put something on, I really want to let people know, that we could use volunteers, because it is a lot of work to put on these shows. On the 26th, on the 24th, the next day, I volunteered at the art show. And that was really a lot of fun, actually. And then on the 26th, I attended an all Snohomish County Mayor's meeting. And on the 27th, I attended the Economic Alliance of Snohomish County coffee, which the topic was homelessness is a housing problem? Is that the name of it?
Almost is a housing problem.
Yes, and it was absolutely fantastic. I would like to follow up on that a lot more and see what we can do as a city to start implementing some of those ideas. And then later that day, I attended the AWC housing group, where we're really trying to figure out what to do with the problem of housing inventory and so forth in the state of Washington. And then on the 29th, I attended another Board of Health Executive Committee meeting. And then later on that night, I attended the combination Snohomish County Cities and Towns and the AWC meeting. And again, what MJ was talking about from Snohomish County was about the money that we collect on the taxes and for housing in Snohomish County. And then AWC talked about their legislative priorities for this next session. And just really quickly, I just wanted to note, I noted in the city happenings that there was a little article about our recycling center, and I just happened to recycle all my light bulbs and batteries for the past 5 years. And it is a fantastic little space where they help you figure it out. So you just go in there looking like you're lost, and they'll help you. So I neglected to do this announcement earlier, and is it okay if I do it here? All right. So I have an announcement for city manager. Scott Hugo has resigned his position as city manager effective today due to personal health reasons. We will be starting a search immediately for a new city manager. Scott has offered to work with the city to help ensure a smooth transition. Thank you. And then next will be the city manager's report.
Good evening, council members. For the record, Stephen Clifton, acting city manager. The Mountlake Terrace waste management contract will be presented to the city council within the next week and a half. We're also working with the executive leadership team on the 2023-2024 budget. This week, the department directors will be presenting their budgets to me. And so I take that information then and work with the department directors and the finance directors to eventually determine what will be presented to the city council. Also, we are meeting with South County Fire and talking about next steps. And so we'll be meeting with them tomorrow at 11 a.m. And then also the City Council Legislative Steering Committee will be meeting with Shelley Helder. She's with Gordon Thomas Honeywell, and we're meeting on October 11th. And one of our primary focuses will be, and it always is trying to secure funding for capital projects. So if you have any issues or concerns that you'd like to share with Council Member McCardle and Council Member Murray, please do so before October 11th. That's all I have at this time.
Thank you. Next. Go ahead.
I hope it's a good time to talk about it now, but you just brought up the legislative agenda. And we know in years past that sometimes it's the right time to look for funding and sometimes it's the wrong time. And they usually give us a projection on what the city could apply for. But are we still going to participate in legislative agenda items as well? I thought the scope had narrowed down a little bit.
That's ultimately up to the council, but you can share that with the steering committee and they will bring that to Shelley. Gordon Thomas Honeywell, for the audience, is our state legislative representative consultant, and so they work with us on addressing legislative matters and also focusing in on trying to secure funds through the state. And then the Johnston Group is the lobbyist that works with us to obtain federal funding and work on federal legislation.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I see that our next agenda item is a presentation by the Volunteers of America. And who is going to be introducing? Are you going to introduce them, Steve?
I'd be honored to. I believe we have a colleague who is hopefully in the gallery. She was going to present online. Is there Lindsay Gagnon in literally in the online space? Are you doing both? Yeah, is she in the audience online? There we go. I was going to say. So we actually have two presentations. There she is. Thanks for raising your hand, Lindsay. We actually have two presentations today by Volunteers of America, Western Washington. The first one will be on community resource centers. And we had earlier as a council requested what is the work that we're doing, that VOA is doing for the city of Mountlake Terrace, so she'll touch upon that as well. So the honor of introducing our director of our CRCs, Lindsay Gagnon. She is online.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Hopefully I'm coming through clear.
Yes, you are.
Wonderful, thanks. Okay. Well, I have a presentation that you can pull up soon, but I just wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. As Councilmember Woodard said, my name's Lindsay Gagnon. I'm the Executive Director for Volunteers of America's Community Resource Centers, and would love and thank you for the opportunity to present on what a community resource center is, especially to Volunteers of America and to the communities that we're in, and what we hope to do for South Snohomish County. So I cannot see my slide deck if that's up. I apologize.
Should be presentation 1.
Oh, we can see it here, but then no one else can see it there. Okay. I can start. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, so thank you all again for this opportunity to talk about our community resource centers, or as what we like to call them, our CRCs. So just to put it plainly, they're one-stop hubs for families and individuals in crisis or struggling to meet basic needs. They're also great places for people to get involved in the community and to really give back to others that might be in need and to participate in services. So kind of really high level, we provide a really wide range of services and support. So from on-site basic needs like hygiene items, clothing, emergency food pantries, to each of our community resource centers are diaper banks. So we'll always have diapers, wipes, and formula available to kiddos and to parents that are needing that assistance. Our bread and butter is really case management. We have really highly trained, what we call support specialists, that are geared at helping folks that are just struggling to stay housed, maybe to meet their bills, and to just get back on their feet. So from services to help folks both one time and also to provide intensive case management to serve those that are hardest to house. So we can assist with employment opportunities, job referrals, help getting their resume up to date, help creating a resume if they haven't created one before. We have financial assistance available to help, again, folks stay stably housed. So with rent, with their utilities, what we like to call flex funds. So we can remove a number of different barriers to help them just get back on their feet and find that path to stability. We also help them apply for assistance. And so we really like to make sure that they're accessing all of the benefits available to them. So that's through DSHS, basic food, making sure that they have the healthcare that they need, and other housing applications as well. And then another key aspect that we are really involved in is community events. We like to get out in the community because we don't just expect people to find us. We really like to be involved in different events. For instance, what we do at each of our sites is we hold, we're the backbone to back to school celebrations. And so we are really very highly partnered with each of our school districts to make sure that we focus on preventative measures to make sure that students have everything that they need to be ready for school, to holiday toy drives, to even like at Lake Stevens, they do a Mother's Day event just to spread that joy and invite kiddos to come in with their parents to write Mother's Day cards. And in Sultan, we are very active in
in all of their longstanding community events. If you're familiar with East County, like Sultan Shindig or even Gold Bar Gold Dust Days. So that's just a few of the things that we do. We also do a lot of kind of offshoot programming. And so we really look at both the needs that are happening right now. So like our CRCs, they focus on case management and people that are in current needs, but we also look to prevention. And so we have youth coalitions in both our Sultan and Lake Stevens locations that really provide a safe place for students to go when not in school. They provide volunteer activities, connections to supportive adult mentors, and ways to get involved and kind of expand their horizons. So currently we have 3 centers in Sultan called our Sky Valley Community Resource Center that serves East Monroe, actually all the way up to Skycomish. So a really big service area, to Arlington that expands up to a little bit of Marysville, Darrington, and Tulalip. And then our Lake Stevens Community Resource Center that just opened in the beginning of 2021 that helps cover the city of Snohomish and also Granite Falls. Next slide. All right, so a little bit more about what our CRCs do to kind of just give you an idea of really what we're focused on. Is we were really a foundation of trauma-informed care practices. We really are held to the highest of high standards, if you will. Each of our centers are certified family support centers, which are now identified at the state level of being true one-stop shops that are really focused on adhering to the national standards for family strengthening and support. We really try to address gaps and needs that affect vulnerable families and individuals in each community we serve. So each of our centers have different programs and services that address gaps and needs. So what one center does kind of looks a little bit different than what another center does. So for instance, that means like our Sky Valley Community Resource Center, they also step up to provide cold weather shelter sites in East Snohomish County, whereas our Arlington Community Resource Center, and excuse my little boy in the background, that is nearing bedtime. We also, like at our Arlington Community Resource Center, provide some motel vouchers to protect people during the most extreme cold. And then our Lake Stevens Community Resource Center, as well as our other centers, they really provide collaborative monthly service provider meetings that really focus on each community that they serve. Which leads me into my next point. We really are trying to build a strong network of support for both participants and service providers. We can't do it all, and nor can anyone. And so we realize that we have to come together with other partners, including cities, including chambers of commerces, including local businesses, to really make sure that every gap is filled to the best of our abilities. And again, we look at both preventative and interventive strategies for strengthening communities. So we really look at the meeting basic needs and work towards economic stability strategies for our youth and families that are growing. Next slide. So we've already started to kind of dip our toes, if you will, into South Snohomish County and serving Mountlake Terrace. And so just wanted to ensure that you knew kind of what we're already doing. So our community resource centers have really been at the helm of really taking on a lot of the relief efforts through COVID, along with a lot of our other Volunteers of America programming, like our housing services, rental assistance efforts. And so, for instance, we've supported the Mountlake Terrace community with utilities assistance for those that are affected by COVID. So currently we've served 36 households, totaling over $32,000. And so I can confidently say each of those households have been provided wraparound services. So not only to address their utility needs, but also to ensure that they have a developed action plan going forward, because we really want to get them to a place where they don't need social services anymore, where they can really stand on their own and give back to the community that they live in. We regularly network and have key partners serving the area. So for instance, LETI, which is the Latino Educational Training Institute, the YWCA and Child Strive, just like a few of the nonprofits that are other big pillars serving South Snohomish County. And we're also involved with many groups aimed at reducing homelessness, poverty, and really growing stronger communities. So some of those might look like the Homeless Policy Task Force, the Snohomish County Family Support Center Network, Snohomish County Human Services, collaboratives around trauma-informed care, and the coordinated entry systems. So that is just one piece of what Volunteers of America really aims to do to serve South Snohomish County and the rest of the county in the process. So thank you all so much for listening, and happy to answer questions, but I think our Chief Operating Officer is next.
All right, do we have any questions? Comments? I see none. Oh, you want to wait till the end?
Yeah. Yeah, so we may have some questions for you at the end there, Executive Director. Thank you for joining us. And I have to let you know, in addition to your son, out in our plaza right now, you can hear kids out there playing. I thought it was a really nice compliment to what you've been talking about, because I know that children and all the way through the life spectrum are our focus, but it's always wonderful to have that actual audio reminder. That said, this next conversation is also by VOA, and as you just heard, it will be with our Chief Operating Officer, and I'm just going to put him on Front Street and let you all know he has a tie to Mountlake Terrace, and I'll just leave it at that to see if he wants to explain that while he's talking to us. But he's here to specifically talk about what I would consider the next level of CRCs, which is the Linwood Neighborhood Center. So we've shared with you what VOA is currently doing, and this would be what we consider the dream bigger, which is soon to be a reality. Brian Smith. Thank you, sir.
Yes, now it's on.
It's on. Great. Everybody hear me? Well, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. I greatly appreciate your time this evening. Thank you for the introduction, Steve. And yes, the connection I have with Mountlake Terrace, it's actually a bit of a blast from the past coming back here. My father was a 30-year law enforcement officer. He retired here in, I think, 2000 as the police chief of Mountlake Terrace. So spent a fair amount of time in the police station, but for positive reasons, saying hi to my father. Let's see here. All right, and thank you, Lindsay, for the introduction. Community resource centers are absolutely a cornerstone program that Volunteers of America has operated for many, many years. Oh, not sharing. 2.5 years into COVID, and we're still figuring this out. Perfect. Okay. All right. So VOA is a very large organization. We've grown rapidly throughout COVID. You know, a lot of people hear Volunteers of America, they automatically think it's so great of you to spend so much of your time volunteering, but actually pre-pandemic levels of employment, we had about 390 staff. We are on track to support or to employ almost 700 now. So in 2 years, just incredible growth. Community resource centers have been an integral part of that. We have 8 main service areas, and they span the full spectrum of basic needs services. So that includes housing. We've provided all the rental assistance for Snohomish County over the last 2 years, resettlement of all the Afghan and Ukrainian refugees in Snohomish County. Our preschools, we have about 160 students in our low-income free preschools. One of the preschools is actually on the East Snohomish County Community Resource Center campus. We run 988 for 32 counties, so the new suicide hotline number 988. We're overseeing that for the vast majority of Washington State. Our dispute resolution program provides landlord-tenant mediation. We really try to take a lot of low-level court cases out of the judicial system and mediate them quickly, cheaper, more efficiently. Our hunger prevention program, on any given year, we distribute between 5 and 8 million pounds of food to Snohomish County residents and food banks and meal sites. And my elevator pitch is like 45 minutes long, so I always forget a program. But as I said, community resource centers have always been just a backbone of everything that we do. It really is a microcosm and kind of a one-stop shop. A lot of our programming is all done out of these centers. And we've realized for a long time that South Snohomish County was kind of a programmatic gap that we did not operate in. So in early 2014, conversations started, just right after I got hired, actually, about an idea to put a community resource center in Linwood in partnership with Trinity Lutheran Church. So we made some good traction. Heading into 2019, we felt like we were on a pretty positive path, and then COVID hit, and we spent the first year of COVID trying to just kind of keep our heads above water as everyone else did. But the second year of COVID, we realized that the needs of the community, and especially South County residents, are going to change dramatically. So we decided to just really re-envision what this center is going to look like. It had always planned to be a 40,000 square foot community resource center that would house multiple nonprofit providers where they could provide shared services. There could be hot desking options for smaller nonprofits who couldn't afford to rent long-term space. We realized, though, that just the gaps in direct service were pretty apparent. So we took a community needs assessment that was done early in COVID, I think early 2020. And we really took the top 5 needs that were requested by South County residents and said, why don't we just put as many of these as we can into the center? And that's exactly what we did. The top 3 needs were accessible and affordable medical care, accessible and affordable dental care, and free community meeting space. So we thought, well, we can check every single one of those boxes. So what we did is spent the next year redesigning the program, and now we actually will have free medical clinic space in the upstairs. We have partnerships that will provide free dental care upstairs as well. We have free community meeting space, a meeting hall. The partnerships are fantastic. Actually, I'm not keeping up with my slides here. So our community partners have been fantastic. We have the Boys and Girls Club as an anchor tenant who will provide their services in that location. We've actually expanded our early childhood programming, so we will have almost 100 slots that will be either free or subsidized childcare or ECAP programming. Our plan is to have adult daycare as well, so memory care, dementia care on site. So it's just a fantastic program. We're picking up speed at this point, and we're looking to break ground in March, this coming March, and completion of the project is expected to be roughly second quarter of 2024. So a little bit of description here of the programming that we expect to put into the center. So, we kind of took a leap of faith when we redesigned the center. The center had existing design plans for a number of years. We weren't really sure if we were on the right path, but we redesigned this really to respond exactly to the community's needs. And I think it really resonated. As soon as we did the redesign and started messaging this throughout the county, the response was overwhelmingly positive. We received numerous grants from various foundations. Washington State has been very generous in allocations for the project. Municipalities are coming online as well with contributions to the project, and that includes the city of Linwood, who is now $1 million in for a contribution for the project. So the program is anticipated to serve all of South Snohomish County. It is not city-centric. It is not unique to one municipality. We know that poverty and low-income needs know no boundaries. And so we fully expect to support many Mountlake Terrace residents as well. So it's happening fast. This center is going to be coming online sooner rather than later. So couldn't do it without community support, and we would love to have the city of Mountlake Terrace on board as a partner as well. So, happy to answer any questions.
Are there any? Councilmember Ryan?
Thank you. Thank you for all you do for our community. Question was, you have a partnership with Trinity Lutheran. Is that the one behind James Village? Where's
Yes.
Trinity Lutheran?
Trinity Lutheran. So if you know where Cafe Ladro is,
No.
just past
It is right.
99, Trader Joe's.
It is
Oh, it
behind-
is that
uh-huh.
one. Okay.
Is that the
All
one?
right. That was the one that was rebuilt after it was burnt down with our
Yes.
state arsonist.
Correct.
Yeah, he burnt a couple of our strip malls here
Oh,
down also.
I was not aware of that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Sonmore?
Sorry for the sidebar. Thank you. I drove by Trinity Church, and the land behind the back where they took out this, it used to be a 7-Eleven years ago, and then it was a creative arts center where kids got art stuff. But is it that whole area in the back? Because I was wondering, because, so there's nothing there right now?
Yeah, so the project is being conducted in 2 phases. So phase 1 is the far less exciting phase that we've completed, where we dozed all of the buildings that used to be there, some of the trees, and then we've installed rainwater and traffic mitigation aspects to the land. So right now, it does look like a patch of very expensive dirt. However, coming this March, we'll start ground-up construction on the project for phase 2.
It's a great location.
It's
It's
fantastic.
a wonderful location. Can you tell me, so we have a senior center here, and I was busy going through your website where you were talking, because I wanted to find out more about senior projects. And I know you have a senior center up north, but what will be in the Linwood site and the free shower program? Will all the same kind of activities at your other senior center be kind of match the one in Linwood?
I think they'll probably be similar, but like Lindsay said, all of our community resource centers, they're really organically driven by the needs of each community. And we don't anticipate to be the only operator of the senior programming. So we are in talks with other senior centers or senior service providers who, will tailor the services there based on the needs of the residents.
And I just want to say one thing. I think I met you as a young man years ago with your dad, Scott. But,
Oh, really?
And yes, and your mom with dark hair, and
Yep.
all you kids. Then there was 2 of you, and then you had 2 more.
Yeah.
I believe, right? And It's just so wonderful to see you in this position and take on after your dad doing all the work that he did here as well. And then, of course, Julie was part of our council as well years ago. So it's just wonderful seeing you. Tell your dad hi.
I will. Small world.
Yeah, very small
Thank
world.
you.
Councilmember Picardo and then Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, thank you for your time and your presentation. It was well laid out and presented. This is a project that, you know, like you have in your slide that you didn't show, but Cindy Ryu states that it's a, you know, we're South Snohomish County, somewhat of a desert for services and social services for the elderly. I think it's a program that, you know, the council, we've talked a lot about how we can become partners in this, jump into the game, so to speak, with the lack of a better word. I guess a couple questions for me would be, you know, what kind of an ask are you looking for from the city? And then the other part of that is, you know, as a council, we've discussed many times how we want to spend some of our ARPA monies, and we've never really landed on anything. So, you know, it brings up, again, for me personally, you know, as a council, we need to figure out how we want to spend the money. Would this be a good program that we could invest in, knowing that, you know, those funds are there for us to not only help our own residents, but become a partner in just the overall South Snohomish County. So all that to say, what kind of like an ask, or would you have a certain amount you're kind of looking for money-wise, and maybe a timeline when you'd like to see us commit if we were to do so?
Yeah, well, I'm biased, but I think this is a worthy investment that the city could make. Yeah, I think we would be pursuing a $500,000 ask. It's roughly the range that we would look at.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Councilmember Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for being here tonight, and Lindsay online. I appreciate you being here and for the presentation. I guess quick follow-up before I forget. So timeline, we heard the ask number, but the timeline from.
Yeah, my apologies. So what we're looking for is commitments to be roughly finalized, whether just through a commitment letter or something similar by this coming March. So a lot of the project hinges on what's called the New Markets Tax Credits Program, which requires roughly 80% of the funding to be acquired at the time of construction. So that ends in March, so we would be looking at that time frame.
Thank you. And want to also say thank you for all of the ways that you jumped in, that volunteers of Western Washington jumped in to support our community during the pandemic. Whether it was getting direct financial assistance to our community members, making sure that there were access to food resources here directly in our community. Just am incredibly grateful for the many ways that your team jumped in, and very quickly and many times, to help support our community during a really, really tough time. So appreciate that very much, and appreciate you being here tonight and sharing the vision and what a vision it is, and appreciate you really listening to community members and thinking about what resources to locate within your community center. Question for you about the partnership with Trinity Lutheran Church. Can you talk about that partnership and how that impacts what that community center looks like, what the services there look like, and how that will impact those, or how that shows up perhaps with those who are utilizing that community center?
Sure. Yeah, so Trinity Lutheran has always, they've always known that plot of land could be better utilized. They've tried a few different things over the years with the properties that where our center is going to go. The partnership is largely in really the philosophical services that we'll be providing. They're very much aligned with kind of the philanthropic vision for the church of giving back to the community. So the church itself won't have a physical presence in the location, but I think they see it as an extension of the social services that they want to see conducted in the community itself.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Brian, for, was it Lindsay? for both of you for being with us tonight and bringing this program to us. What an invaluable service that you provide, and I'm so pleased that we have the Linwood Center coming online, and I'm just so excited to see this coming together to help serve South Snohomish County, and helping to serve the underserved, those that are most in need, and connecting them with the services that are available that are, as pointed out, so difficult to navigate and be able to utilize. And so this is truly a service that is needed, and I'm really excited that they're here and appreciate the presentation. I also appreciate the ask. A couple of questions. One is that's obviously the capital ask for what we need during the capital challenge, right? What we need today to be able to get this online and serving our South County. So follow-up question on that is, what do you see or envision for an ongoing need to help continue maintaining the service and providing the service throughout the years? And the other question is, what can we be, I mean, obviously, other than financially, what can we be doing to work together, to partner, to help get the word out? I mean, one of the biggest challenges that we face is, serving the underserved is, first of all, how do we identify those people? How do we get the word out so that they know that these services are available and they can take advantage of that? What can we be doing as a city and community to help get that word out and help others find out about the services that are provided?
Sure. Yeah, so to speak to the ongoing operational needs, I think our pro forma right now estimates about $500,000 a year in annual operating costs. The way that we're funding the capital side of it is we don't want to go into this with a mortgage. We want to be fully sustained, and all of the tenants who will be in the building will really just be paying the operational overhead costs, what it costs to keep the lights on, take the trash out, and things like that. So with staffing and whatnot, $500,000 is what we're expecting. It's a bit of a shot in the dark this early in the game. But, ongoing contributions from municipalities are really a cornerstone of how our other centers are funded. So definitely something I would love to have further discussions about down the road once we get online. As far as engagement, so we're very active on social media, so sharing posts and excitement about what we're doing would be fantastic. Spreading the word, this is going to impact all of South County residents. So I mean, we have plenty of literature on various things that's going to go on in the center. Sharing those whenever you're able. If VOA is able to table any events and partner with the city, and just spread the word not only about this, but all the other services that are available to individuals. That's huge. This will come up in conversation naturally, but there are needs that people need met right now as well. So we're always happy to sit down and chat with folks. Yeah, thank you.
So I have been to 2 events in the planning of this, and the total amount is 20-some million, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, about 24.
And you only have about 5 million left to raise?
Yeah, thereabouts. Inflation is not helping anything right now, but we're going to say 5 million.
And so you've already raised over 20 million.
Yeah, just shy of that.
Yes.
Correct.
And I know that even though it's not located in Mountlake Terrace residents will probably be using it quite a bit, which is why the neighboring cities should be looking at participating.
I would agree with that.
And I think that the word will get out because, that's what wraparound services are all about. And if you're a person in need, and then you get services, and then the services will send you to the places where you can get help, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And this will be one of the, because right now, there's not a lot of places to go in South Snohomish County.
There's not.
So this will be a real fantastic addition to what we need. So State Representative Cindy Liu kept sending me these emails and emails until I finally said, okay, fine, I'll go.
She's
And-
persistent.
And that was, and I went because it was at Rick Steve's house. And yes, I learned a lot. I could not believe what you guys were planning. And then later on, I learned more and more about it. So this is a fantastic addition. And if it opens in the third quarter of 2024, it will be at the same time light rail will be here.
Exactly. Yep.
I think that's all I have, except for the fact that I do run into your dad once in a while, and he always
do you?
remembers me. And we do talk. And let's see. So that's all I have. So, Councilmember Woodard.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to extend your point about light rail and the timing. And Councilmember Murray put the context out there with the week of no driving. Thank you for doing that. And then, as luck and timing would have it, being with Congressman Rick Larson this afternoon, he brought up the reminder that the Orange Line, which will end right at Edmonds College, who's also a partner with us in their own way, will drive directly by this center. So if you think that all the way out, you would say from Mountlake Terrace, you walk right to our stop, one stop up to Linwood's stop, get on the Orange Line, and zip right across to that. So in that regard, it's still recognizing, as Councilmember Sommer pointed out, a wonderful location for a lot of different reasons, that being one of them, just its accessibility. There's already several bus routes that go by, but as we, to that point, keep reinvesting community transit lines, we expect that to get even more accessible. And then the last point that I think I will make, I have already said this in the past, so I won't share that one. It's just I'm now buying time because I'm trying to remember what was I going to say. Probably nothing, so I'll leave it there for a wise man once said nothing.
Okay, do I see any other hands? I think we're done.
Okay. Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Okay, so next on our agenda is a public hearing and adoption of ordinance establishing multifamily property tax exemption program for the town center subarea.
There we go. Just had to test it. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members. For the record, Stephen Clifton, Acting City Manager. Tonight, we are holding a public hearing on the Multifamily Property Tax Exemption Program. And tonight's presentation will consist of two parts. The first part, I'll briefly describe what events led us up to tonight's public hearing. And then the second part, I'll actually be discussing the proposed Chapter 3.95 of the Municipal Code. And first, I'd like to say that in your packet, you should have a memorandum, you should have an ordinance, you should have an exhibit to the ordinance, and then also proposed Chapter 3.95. And when I prepare my presentations, I always assume that there might be someone in the audience who may be coming to this issue new. So within my staff report, I have inserted hyperlinks to the 4 previous council meetings where this topic has been discussed so that As I reference certain portions throughout the staff report, people can click on that link. It'll take them back to whatever council meeting relates to that. And it just makes it easy for people to navigate, or hopefully easier than it would if they had to search for the items themselves. So first, I'll just talk a little bit about the background that led us up to these events. The city of Mountlake Terrace has been exploring ways to incentivize development within the 82-acre town center subarea. The subarea was updated and approved by the city council in 2019. The city requested strategic guidance on residential development incentives with specific emphasis on multifamily property tax exemption, typically referred to as MFTE. And there are many programs that exist within the Puget Sound area. And briefly, I'll just be highlighting some that exist in our area, but also throughout the state. Jurisdictions are allowed to create MFTE programs pursuant to Chapter 84.14 of the Revised Code of Washington. And on June 16th, after we entered into a professional services agreement with the Concord Group, they presented findings on multifamily property tax exemption programs throughout the Puget Sound region. They presented those to the City Council. And on July 19th, they actually presented an analysis of various MFTE scenarios from developer perspectives and an analysis of fiscal impacts of multifamily tax exemption programs from the city perspective. On the screen, you'll see Washington cities that have adopted MFTE programs, and I've highlighted 3 in bold font, Edmonds, Linwood, and Shoreline, only because they surround us. And the city of Mountlake Terrace once had a multifamily tax exemption program, but it expired in 2017. MFT exemptions have varying baseline requirements, and those are set by the state. And so in reviewing various jurisdictions' codes that relate to multifamily tax exemptions, you'll notice that the language is very similar throughout the codes. And the reason for that is it's driven by what the state requires. They require certificates of certification and 3-year timelines for completing the project, et cetera, et cetera. So you'll find similar language throughout the code. And what it does specifically is it exempts the improvement value of new housing from ad valorem property. And the improvement value relates only to the residential portion of a development. It does not relate to the commercial area of a development or the land itself. And state law requires an 8 and 12 and 20-year exemption. However, I've only highlighted the 8 and 12-year because Mountlake Terrace is not eligible for the 20-year exemption. So the 8-year exemption, as proposed within the code, stipulates a qualifying multifamily project provide a minimum of 4 new units. That's also consistent with state law. For the 12-year exemption, it stipulates that a qualifying multifamily project provide a minimum of 4 units as well. However, 20% of all residential units created must be affordable for households that are low and moderate income. And this is defined at 80% and 80 to 115% of the implementing region's area median income, or AMI, respectively. On August 11th, the Mountlake Terrace City Council considered the information provided by the Concord Group and provided direction regarding a proposal to reestablish an MFTE program. And at the conclusion of the meeting, the council expressed support for taking steps necessary to implement an MFT program that includes 8 and 12-year options. The 12-year option would require 20% of the units, that's the state law minimum, with below market rents at 80% of area median income. On August 17th, I sent letters to taxing districts, that's the Snow Isle Libraries, the Snohomish County Assessor, Edmonds School District, Sound Transit, Washington State Department of Commerce, Public Hospital District number 2, and the South County Regional Fire Authority, informing them that the council is considering the establishment of an MFTE program, and no responses have been received to date. I spoke with the city of Redmond, and they did the same thing, and they didn't receive any comments from taxing authorities as well. They're becoming so common throughout the states that the taxing districts are very familiar with these types of programs now. On September 1st, 2022, Mountlake Terrace City Council approved a resolution of intent to designate the town center subarea as a residential target area and set a public hearing date, and that's why we're here this evening. Regarding the draft ordinance, what I did within the memorandum is I extracted language from the draft code and I included it in the memorandum, so if someone didn't want to go in and read the entire code, they could actually just read the draft report and they would get a gist of what the code says. And so I'll just briefly summarize each code section, and the council can ask me some questions when I'm completed. Chapter 3.95010 relates to the purpose, and it's to encourage increased residential opportunities, including affordable housing units, to stipulate new construction or rehabilitation of existing vacant and underutilized buildings for multifamily housing. There may be buildings that may have been vacated and that are multifamily, but because of the tax exemption, a developer may find it feasible to actually convert that then into multifamily housing. So that's why that language is in there. Assistance in directing population growth towards designated residential target areas, in this case, the town center, and then also increased development densities near transit, as mentioned by Councilmember Murray earlier. We have light rail coming in 2024, and so we're trying to get as many housing units as possible constructed near light rail to give people more transportation options. And then also accomplish Growth Management Act planning goals, and those relate to several of the items which I've already discussed. Applicability, multifamily housing projects resulting from new construction or rehabilitation or conversion of vacant, underutilized, or substandard buildings, and you must create 4 or more additional units of housing. Terms of the tax exemption for eligible properties under the MFTE chapter, the value of residential portion of the project is exempt. Under the 8 successive years, that begins January 1st following the calendar year of issuance of the final certificate of tax exemption. I'll be discussing that in just a moment. And then for the 12-year option, that begins at the same time frame. To qualify for the 12-year exemption, and this is different than the 8-year. The 8-year has no related stipulations, but the 12-year does. You must commit to rent or sell at least 20% of the multifamily units at as affordable housing units, and they must be households making 80% of the area median income. That includes studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom units proportionally located throughout the building. And the exemptions provided do not include, as I mentioned earlier, the value of land or non-housing related improvements. At the conclusion of the exemption period, the new or rehabilitated housing costs shall be considered as new construction for the purposes of Chapter 84.55 of the Revised Code of Washington. As I mentioned earlier, project eligibility relates to the town center within the city of Mountlake Terrace. That is depicted on your screen. Following up on that, there's additional project eligibility requirements, and the second is that tenant displacement is prohibited. There are requirements within the code that do require the developer to assist in finding tenants housing. This is very common in other codes as well. It's probably unlikely this is going to happen because most people that utilize this program apply it mostly to new housing. Existing dwelling units proposed for rehabilitation must be non-compliant, i.e. fail to comply with standards of applicable state or city building codes. In other words, someone can't go into an existing apartment building and choose to remodel and then consider themselves to be exempt. So there have to be non-compliant reasons as to why they do that. Again, create 4+ additional multifamily units. During the exemption, there are to be no violations of applicable regulations and codes. The completion date, developer must, within 3 years from the date the application is certified as eligible for certificate of tax exemption, complete the project. And there are provisions within the code that do allow for an extension. And a good example of where that might be granted is if we were to go into a recession, and it's very difficult then for a lot of developers to find financing or to make the project work for whatever reasons, then the director has the ability to extend it for another year and or two. That is allowed under state code or state law. The owner must enter into a contract with the city, and the owner does agree to implement the development in compliance with the multifamily tax exemption chapter. Let's see. There we go. Some of the application procedures, completed application form must be completed, setting forth the grounds for the exemption. A brief description of the project, the composition of the proposed new units, the preliminary site and floor plan of the units, the location and type of units subject to the 12-year exemption must be submitted. A statement acknowledging potential tax liability when the project ceases to be eligible. Affidavit stating occupancy for a period of 12 months prior to filling out the application. Verification by oath or affirmation of the information submitted. In other words, everything that they're putting in the application is fact and accurate. Initial application fee plus an amount necessary to cover recording fees. And rehabilitation projects, there must be a report identifying property non-compliance with the building codes before you can proceed. And then related to certificates and the application process, et cetera, what an applicant will do is they'll apply for a conditional certificate, and that'll be to the city of Mountlake Terrace, and they must apply prior to submitting a building permit. And existing applications are exempt from this requirement. That's happened when cities have implemented these. Some cities have recognized that there may be developments in the pipeline right now that simply because of timing, they're not able to apply for the tax exemption. Application for a final certificate, an applicant may request final certificate of the tax exemption upon completion of the project. And then the issuance of the final certificate, the CED director may grant a final certificate of tax exemption if the project is determined to be completed in accordance with the MFTE chapter and the contract between the applicant and the city, and completed within the authorized timeframe, and that relates to my earlier comment of 3 years. There's an annual compliance review, and so an applicant is required to file a notarized declaration with the city. It includes occupancy, vacancy, certificate that the property has not changed use, and the property has been in compliance with affordability housing requirements, and then a description of changes and improvements constructed after issuance of the certificate of tax exemption. And then the city is also to report annually to the State Department of Community, Trade, and Economic Development. And that does take a little bit of time, and so that's why the application fee up front is meant to cover that throughout the life of the exemption. Next steps, if the council approves the ordinance this evening, we will begin preparing multifamily property tax exemption program application forms and update city web pages. Actually, Jennifer has already taken applications from other cities and converted those into fillable PDFs. And depending on what the council decides tonight, we will then take the language within those applications and then just update them accordingly so that we're ready to go upon adoption and of the code. And so there's an application and information forms, certification of household eligibility. Of course, those who will be renting units, they have to declare and prove that they are at 80% of the area median income. They have to work with the developer, and of course, all this is submitted collectively so we can verify that the rent the units rented out are being rented to those who are eligible to receive the benefit of getting housing at a lower cost. There's annual project certification. There are rent and income limits. I looked at the Snohomish County, City of Shoreline website along with other city websites. And I have to say the City of Shoreline actually has the best example of how rents are set so that those administering the code understand what the rent should be, but also the developer can easily look at a table, and it needs to be updated on an annual basis. And so we would work with hopefully someone at AHA or someone at HASCO to help us to establish those thresholds, and those are typically determined by HUD, and of course what our area median income is as well. And so annually that'll be updated. And in looking at these other codes, I just couldn't find how the rents were ever set. And then I spoke with the people at Shoreline, and I looked at their table that they have, and they walked me through it, and actually made so much sense. So I think we want to replicate that table because we want to make it as easy as possible for not only the applicant, but for any staff that are hired who may not have been a part of this process, but yet who have to yet implement the code. So also, there is a conditional certificate of multifamily tax exemption application I mentioned earlier, extension application, and then final certificate of multifamily property tax exemption application. And that completes my presentation. I know it's a public hearing, so there may be people in the audience who have comments regarding tonight's presentation.
Is the public hearing? Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Murray.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Stefan. Appreciate all of the work and the really just, easy to digest, straightforward way you put together a lot of information. So thank you for all of your work there. I guess my one question, as I was looking at the code on page 3, up at the top, it talks about for property to qualify for the 12-year exemption under the subsection, the applicant must, and there's 3 different items. And one of them is the includes studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, et cetera, units proportionately. But it doesn't specifically call out, I guess, that the property, you can tell it's been a long, long day. Okay, so it doesn't call out that those are the, I guess, income restricted units. Does that, I guess, any concerns about that? I just want to make sure that we're making it clear that we are talking about the units that are income restricted are proportionate to the non-income restricted units within the building.
Yes, we plan to clarify in the application, but it actually applies to 2 items.
Oh.
One is that the 80% needs to be proportional. So let's say you have 100 units and you have 10 1-bedroom units, 20 2-bedroom units, and the rest 3-bedroom units. Then, for example, 10% of the units of the 20% of the studios then have to rent at 80% AMI. The other 20 of the 2-bedroom or 1-bedroom, whatever they might be, those have to rent for 80%. And then proportionally throughout the building also means that you can't just put them all in one undesirable location of the building, for example, near the basement or something like that. They need to be scattered throughout the entire building so that everyone has the ability to live on different floors and different areas of the building.
Okay, thank you. No, I think that makes a lot of sense, and remember us talking about that. So we think that that makes that clear to folks that are looking at our code and looking to potentially build these projects in our community. Great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to open the public hearing.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Public hearing is now open. Do we have anybody signed up?
No one has signed up in person, but we do have someone with their hand raised. William, you'll have 5 minutes to speak.
Hi, okay, thank you. This is William Page. I'm back again. And I think this is appropriate. I wasn't expecting this type of presentation when I saw it on the script, but I'm glad that I was able to get back on. The question I have, well, I guess I'll start off by saying earlier in the year, the DEIC had a speaker come and speak to us regarding, or to the public regarding affordability with housing. And the thing that he talked about was the multifamily housing and developers. And he talked about the exemptions, the tax exemptions that's available to developers if they follow I think the 80-20. And what he pointed out, though, when talking about affordability or unaffordability for housing for people, was the fact that because of the profit margin that the developers were getting, particularly in Seattle, for the apartments that they were renting, leasing, or selling, that they would forego the tax exemptions in lieu of the profits they were going to make on those units. The question I have, I guess, is one: what if a developer who gets into an agreement for this development and they opt to not get a full 20%, maybe 10%, what will be the penalty? And if we have developers who go that route in this city, who decide that the profitability on their units is so high that they will just take the hit, what is the city prepared to do to combat that or to keep that from happening so that residents don't get into those apartments?
Who can answer that?
The percentage is actually mandated by state law. So the developer is required to set aside 20%, period. And the code states that if a developer or owner violates the MFTE chapter, then we can rescind the eligibility of that project, and then they will have to be taxed. And then part of the reporting system requires that the developer on an annual basis certify, and they have to sign a statement that the units that they are renting and committed to, they're still renting out 20%, and they're still renting out that 20% to individuals or households that make 80% of area median income.
Okay, so I guess that goes back to my original statement then, or more so to the individual who spoke to us about what's really happening in a lot of development as around western part of Washington, particularly in Seattle, is that we have developers who have decided that paying the tax is less harmful to them financially than making these apartments affordable, and the city essentially has their hands tied because the development has happened, the apartments are there, and they're just not paying they're just paying the tax because they're making so much money. So does that mean that could happen also in Mountlake Terrace? Yes, that's my question.
I think that's very difficult to respond to, only because we don't know at any given time what the financial situation is for any developer and what pencils and what does not pencil. So I think that's really a difficult question to answer.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I guess it's just something that council should think about. I mean, we have someone that came forward and it's on tape and gave us a pretty thorough presentation for over an hour and kind of pointed out that, it all sounds good in theory, but we got developers who, are, doing what they do, and the affordability isn't occurring because, once it's there, if they can afford it, then it sounds like the cities that they're building these places in, all they can do is tax them and they pay the tax. So I just hope that, look at that and consider it. Yes, that's my point. Thank you.
Mayor, if I might, William asked some great questions, but typical protocol is that anyone who submits comments submits them to the city council, and then the city council asks me questions. So you can repeat what the audience member says. So.
Oh, did we forget to do that? It beeped. Oh, it beeped. Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Do we have any other?
If there's anyone else in the online audience that would like to speak, please use your hand raise tool. Going once, going twice. That's the end of the public comment. Thank you.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Public hearing is now closed. What are the council's wishes? Is that, or do we talk first?
Motion first.
Motion first. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to adopt an ordinance, ordinance establishing multifamily property tax exemption program for the town center sub-area.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Now we can do a discussion before.
No, we just voted on it. It's done.
Oh, I see.
We've had a lot of discussion on this.
Okay. Normally, I have all of these written down for me in front of me.
We'll do that for the next meeting.
And so, okay, so motion passes. All right. Moving on to new business. Does anyone have any new business? Councilmember Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. I regret to say that I forgot to include you as a volunteer for the art show. It's just that you're everywhere and you do everything, so I really appreciate it, so thank you.
Councilmember McCardle.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to remind the council that on August 11th, the Legislative Steering Committee will meet. So if you want to pass on your ideas for October 11th, sorry, August 11th. So if you want to pass on your ideas to myself or Councilmember Murray, that'd be greatly appreciated. Otherwise, we'll set our own agenda, right? Vacation in Hawaii, you know, maybe go to Paris, who knows? Thank you.
All right. I have several to give you. Councilmember Woodard?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to follow suit here since I'm not a wise man and go back to what I remember now, which is I wanted to know or let folks know, I know the council knows because we have access to the report, but for that second presentation on the Linwood Neighborhood Center, slide 10 is an actual walkthrough video. So for our residents who are watching or who didn't realize that, you can actually get a artist rendition because the building's not there, of course, but it's what we should be seeing. I wanted to make sure you knew that. The second piece is wanted to revisit, since William is with us right now, you can speak directly to him if you like, but to revisit, that was an actual ask of us. And the easiest way is to just reach out to him and say, hey, here's who I'm willing to work with, or yes, in the sense of going to a business or whatnot, or just say, yes, I want to be part of that, and then they will partner you with someone from the DEI. I saw a lot of head nods and shakes and thumbs up, but they're actually looking for us to participate. So William, you can see us, and I think you can see everyone is shaking yes, so I would say you can reach out directly to us as well. And then lastly, you dropped some really somber news, and I just want to make sure, are we going to do something formal for City Manager Hugel? And if so, I will wait till then, but I didn't want to miss it and let's just roll on. Okay, I'm saying yes, so I will wait on that then.
Talking more about that. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, we've had preliminary discussions about honoring Scott and the role and the service he's provided the city over the years. So we are looking into how to do that. Yes, very good. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilmember Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. Just quickly, we had a news release earlier recognizing that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and wanted to let the community know that the police department has purple light bulbs, and we're also encouraging folks to use purple light bulbs / black light bulbs to both support those who are victims and navigating domestic violence currently. And so wanted to just make sure that folks had a chance to see that and know that that resource is available.
Thank you. Those lights are a little bit too dark for my front porch. So I'm trying to figure out what I can do. That's a window, is when, just displayed in your window. I don't see any more hands. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just following up on William Page's ask.
Yes.
Do we need to formally let you know? I mean, I think, because he couldn't see us when we were giving a thumbs up to you. So all of us are on board. I think we're all excited to work with you, William, and the DEIC, and reaching out and working with and honoring our Latino businesses. And so anything we can do, I think, let us know, William, and we're excited about. I think it's a great plan and program. So great idea. Thanks for thinking of it, and thanks for including us.
And there are 6 Latino businesses, and so it would be nice if we can have six members of the council, maybe, along with members of the DEIC to pair up with. So we'll get those names to you, William.
Thank you. I don't know if I'm supposed to speak or not,
No.
but I'm at home, so I can't get in trouble.
Well, I think new businesses for the council. All right. So I don't see any other hands going up for anything else. And so next on our agenda is adjournment. We are adjourned.